what happens when AI adoption inside companies grows faster than the guardrails that are meant to protect the data running through those very same tools. This is one of the many questions that we will discuss today with the CEO of Cyberhaven. My guest leads a company that is focused on tracing how data is created and how it is shared right across an organisation, and he has a front row view of just how quickly AI tools have entered our daily workflows. And his team's AI adoption and risk report pulls together billions of real-world data events. And in doing so, has given us all a rare and incredibly grounded look at what is really happening out there, not just what people assume is happening. So from shadow AI to data fragments moving through tools that nobody has vetted, there's a lot for leaders to think about here. So please, I want you to listen, consider your own environment, and if employees are using AI at this pace, ask yourself, how prepared are you for the risks that come with it? But before we jump into today's conversation, I just want to take a moment to thank our sponsor for helping make this show possible. But before our interview today, a quick shout out to our sponsors. And if you're the person who everyone calls when something breaks, I think you'll appreciate this one. NordLayer gives IT teams total visibility into who's accessing what, where, on which device, and all without the usual complexity. And did you know you can deploy in minutes, enforce access policies, and integrate it with your existing SSO or provisioning tools? And because it's built on zero trust foundations, you'll know that every connection is verified, not assumed safe. And I've spoken to enough IT leaders to know that easy deployment is absolutely everything. And NordLayer really does deliver on that. Consider it a modern cybersecurity that doesn't slow you down or cause you frustrations or lock you into hardware. Simply protect your systems and your sanity. Go to nordlayer.com/techtalksdaily and use the code TechDaily-28 to get 20% off your yearly plan. But now, I'm going to introduce you to my guest. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
Well, first of all, thank you, Neil, for having us on this podcast. Really appreciate you hosting us. So my name is Nishant Doshi. I'm the CEO of Cyberhaven. Cyberhaven is a late-stage cybersecurity company, and our mission is to protect the company's most sensitive data from data exfiltration and insider risk. Our AI native data security platform, it's built for helping enterprises adapt to this modern world full of AI. And what makes us very unique is this ability to trace the data as it's getting created, shared across the entire organization. We call that data lineage. And that deep understanding of how data is moving through the organization helps us understand the data and helps us protect the data in a way no other tools can. Now, I've been in cybersecurity for the last 20 plus years. I started my career at Symantec, and it was all about endpoints and networks. And then I saw a shift to cloud and virtualization at Palo Alto Networks. And now at Cyberhaven, we are in the midst of AI and data world, and we are sitting at the intersection of AI and data. So that's really where we play. That's where we fit in. And very excited to be here and talk about AI security, talk about data security.
And there's so much I want to talk with you about today. One of the things that put Cyberhaven on my radar, you set off my tech spidey sensors when you released the AI adoption and risk report, which was built from billions of real-world data flows. So what was the motivation behind creating this such a deep look into AI usage and data exposure? Sounds like a mammoth task there, but what was the inspiration behind it?
Yeah, great question. So first of all, I'd say the enterprise world is changing fast with AI. The rate of AI usage at work grew 4.6x times in the last 12 months and about 61x times over the past 24 months. So you can just think about how quickly these enterprises are adapting and adopting AI tools, leveraging AI for everything that they're doing. And if you think about sort of how employees are creating, sharing, consuming data and knowledge, we've never seen this world before. We've never seen the rate at which they're creating this data, the way they're sharing this data, all of the data access patterns, all of the patterns that you access knowledge, sensitive information have changed. So it's driving massive, massive productivity, but it's also creating a massive risk for the organization. It's exposing sensitive data, sensitive corporate data at an unprecedented scale. So we wanted to understand these trade-offs, these data consumption patterns, and at the same time understand the risk associated with that. And we didn't want to rely on surveys or anecdotal data. We really wanted to understand this from an objective lens. So we have a lot of the information in terms of how enterprises are leveraging these tools and how they're sharing this data. And we decided to understand that from an objective lens, understand that from billions of real world data events, so that hopefully our report shines the light on the risk, but also helps customers, helps organizations enable AI adoption in a safe and secure way.
And it is such a timely topic. I know shadow AI is a big topic on inside every organization around the world at the moment, and that concern around how data is being used. So I suppose I should be unsurprised that the report highlighted a 61 times increase in workplace AI usage over the last 2 years alone. So what are the factors fueling this explosion, and are there any usage patterns that might have caught you off guard that you saw there?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought this up. If you take a step back and you compare cloud computing with AI, you'll see that history doesn't repeat itself, but it certainly rhymes.
Mm.
The key word here is democratization. Cloud computing democratized access to compute and resources. AI is democratizing access to knowledge. So now, with the launch of ChatGPT in 2022 and everything that's happened since, we've seen employees that started with experimenting with AI now using AI in critical business workflows. So after analyzing real world data, we had a few trends that did surprise us. So the first trend I would say is that you would expect AI adoption to be the highest in tech companies. But we were very surprised to see how AI has been adopted outside of the tech companies, especially in manufacturing and retail. We saw 20x usage increase in AI tooling and AI practices in manufacturing, and about a 24x increase in retail year over year. And we see this trend just across the board, across all verticals. So that was something that we didn't expect. The second thing that was sort of surprising for us is that now with AI, every employee is a developer. We expected AI to be used by developers, leveraging coding tools like Cursor, Klein, Codex. But now we see that every employee, even if they are in sales, marketing, HR, finance, are leveraging AI tools. At the same time, they're leveraging tools like Cursor and Klein and Codex to develop AI agents or develop AI workflows. People who've never written a line of code ever in their lives are now starting to use AI to wipe code, tasks, to build automations, to workflow, to power workflows, and that's incredible. It's absolutely improved productivity, but it's also created a lot of risk because these users don't truly understand what they're building. don't truly understand the risk, don't understand how these tools are using data, leveraging data, sharing data. So that is another interesting and surprising trend that we saw. Right now, about 83% of enterprise data has been sent to AI tools or is going to tools that we would classify as medium to high risk. And about 34% of all the data that employees are sending to these tools is what we would consider as sensitive data. And that's increased from 27.4% about a year back. So we see a lot more sensitive data going to these tools, and a lot more of these tools being what we would call medium to high risk. So when you break that down, we see about 18.7% of data coming from source code, 17.1% from R&D material, and about 10.7% comes from sales and marketing data. About 7.4% involves healthcare or health records. So you can clearly see the trend of sensitive data going to these tools. And shadow AI is a problem that a lot of enterprises are trying to grapple with. And the challenge is that it's balancing productivity and security. And that's always been the holy grail for most companies since the last 20, 25 years.
And another surprising stat that I saw in the report was that mid-level employees, they're the ones using AI tools far more than executives or even junior staff. So why do you think this middle tier is leading the charge? It really took me by surprise, this one.
Yeah, this is a trend that we clearly see in the data. Mid-level employees are really the driving force behind AI adoption. And I think it's because they sit in a very unique position. They're close enough to the day-to-day execution to exactly see where AI can be leveraged, where AI can save time. And they're senior enough to make independent decisions about adopting new tools, leveraging AI. So they have the autonomy, the agency to experiment, and they understand the details and understand the workflows. So this is the group that I feel is also most pressed to deliver results, and AI is truly becoming a efficiency play. So for these mid-level employees. So that's the trend that we see now. Our projection is that as we sort of as AI adoption becomes more common, more mainstream, we would see this adoption sort of expand into both junior sort of employees as well as more senior executives leveraging AI for everything that they do. So we do think that this trend would sort of expand horizontally, but for now, it's mostly driven by mid-level employees.
And CISOs maybe should cover their ears when I say this next stat, because according to your findings, more than 80% of enterprise data is flowing into AI tools and being sent to platforms rated as high or critical risk. So how are companies losing control of where their data is going? Sounds like quite a scary prospect.
Yeah, this was one of the most concerning findings in our research. The biggest risk we are seeing is that employees are putting highly sensitive data into AI systems, often without realizing where that information is going, how that might be used. So what's happening is not malicious. It's usually driven by productivity. These folks, these employees are just trying to move fast. But in doing so, they are unintentionally moving sensitive data to these environments. And today, about 35% of all corporate data entering AI tools is classified as sensitive. That's about a third of the data. And it's not just harmless text, right? It's common data types include source code, R&D material. These are the crown jewels of any organization. We see sales and marketing strategies, health records, HR files. So what's more concerning is where this data ends up. About 84% of corporate data going into these tools is being sent to platforms that we would rate as medium to high risk. only with a small fraction flowing to enterprise-ready low-risk systems. So that's why AI governance and data controls have become so urgent for every organization. And part of the challenge is how we share and consume data. And that's changed over the years, right? We no longer share files. We no longer send information via just email. We work in data fragments. Think about the last time you created a presentation. You took data from multiple sources, put it together. These are all small fragments coming together. And with AI, it's becoming even more fragmented. AI is truly a data blender. So now you have a lot of different fragments all coming together, and it's really hard to discover the sensitivity of what's been created. And previous approaches, they've fallen short. The previous approach to data security was to tag the source file or tag the data at rest in SaaS systems. And and then look for those tags downstream in emails or at gateways. But in this fragmented world, that doesn't work because no one's sharing just one file. People are just sharing data fragments. So that makes it very challenging because a lot of the organizations, the controls that they've had, the tools that they've had to protect data, they were built for a very different era, a very different generation. And I would say the data really has broken free. And now you need more modern tools to protect your most sensitive information from being exfiltrated.
And to help businesses, the report has introduced risk ratings for specific AI tools. So how are these risk tiers developed, and what should security leaders be watching out for?
Yeah, we recently introduced risk ratings for AI tools that was so very much needed for the industry. The goal wasn't to create fear, but was to bring more clarity, more awareness on how these tools handle data. So we used a data-driven methodology to develop these risk tiers. Our teams evaluated more than 700 AI tools. And essentially, we're looking under the hood to see how each tool is managing user data, training data, access controls. From there, we built a 5-tier risk model ranging from low to critical. And this classification is based on several key factors. It's about how long the tool retains the data, whether it shares data with third parties, whether your inputs can be used for model training. The biggest red flag are tools that store or transmit sensitive data externally, especially when they lack clear data handling policies. And these were the ones that pose the highest exposure risk. What we found was very striking. About 70% of AI tools today fall into the high or critical risk categories. That means most employees are using tools that aren't, frankly, enterprise ready. And security teams need visibility and control before these tools get widely adopted. And again, the intent wasn't to create panic. It's about empowerment. It's about giving these right insights to the security team so that companies can make informed choices, enable safe AI adoption. So that's really what we intended. And I'm glad to say that this has been widely adopted across our customer base, and our customers find it very valuable, and they refer to our index as a way to guide their policies.
And another area that stands out is developers. They're the ones that are clearly reshaping their workflows using these new AI tools. And usage platforms like Cursor, for example, are up an incredible 400%. So from this side of things, what kind of risks are you seeing that are unique to engineering teams?
Yeah, developers are absolutely reshaping the way they work, especially with AI. We've seen, to your point, like a lot of growth in these AI coding tools. We see more than 400% growth for Cursor, and I'm sure that stat is already outdated, to be honest with you. Yeah. And then momentum is really transforming how engineering teams write tests, they ship code. But again, the risk that comes with using these tools is also pretty unique. and as something that most organizations need to control. Today, about 10.8% of all AI-related material is source code is entering source code management systems, which tells us developers are deeply integrating AI into their workflows. The challenge is that they're pasting sensitive or proprietary code into these tools, often without realizing that they could expose the company's intellectual property. And that code might be stored, shared, or even used to train external models. Now, the problem is that many popular AI coding platforms don't guarantee data isolation. So the company's code base, essentially, its competitive advantage could end up in contributing to a public model. And that's something that is a huge risk for organizations. We're also seeing data flow through third-party APIs and cloud environments that don't meet enterprise standards. And because developers tend to move fast, experiment, they often adopt these tools before governance policies are fully in place. And that's rapidly expanding the organization's attack surface. But the answer, if you ask me, and I used to be a developer, is really not to slow developers down. It's to enable them to innovate safely. The goal should be to give engineering teams secure enterprise grade AI environments where they can experiment, they build freely, and without putting the source code or any IP at risk. I mean, that's again going back to the balance between productivity and creativity and control. And that's truly what's going to define the next generation of companies. So it's really getting that sort of balance correct, and that's sort of going to drive the innovation. So yeah, very excited to for what's to come, but it's definitely something that we need to watch.
And if we zoom out for a moment, a third of all data being shared with AI tools inside most organizations is now considered sensitive. So what do you think this overall stat says about employee awareness and the policies that are meant to be protecting company data? It seems like there's a few pieces of this puzzle missing here as adoption continues.
Yeah, the fact is that 1/3 of this data going into these AI tools is sensitive. And it highlights a major awareness gap. People understand the power of AI, but they don't understand the risks or all of the risks that these tools bring to the organization. And that's because many of these organizations are still relying on traditional data protection policies that weren't designed for AI. So they don't catch these new types of patterns of data sharing. Most of these technologies rely on labeling the data at source and then looking for those labels downstream. And the way we share data, the way we replicate data, it's all fragmented. So you see a lot of these controls failing, and a lot of these controls are not even on the endpoint where these users are doing their best work. So you have a big gap, you have a big blind spot, because all of that AI action is happening at the endpoint. It's the users and the humans who are leveraging these tools and workflows. So we need to have a lot of visibility on the endpoint. Of course, you need visibility at the edge, you need visibility in the cloud, but that endpoint visibility has been generally lacking in a lot of organizations, and that's really about to change because a lot of that innovation is happening on the endpoint. So we need to be closer to the user. We need to be closer to the actions that the user is performing to truly protect this data and to enable AI. And that's really the gap. Now, I think the key takeaway is that the companies, they need to evolve their security education. They need to evolve their policies, and more importantly, they need to evolve their tooling so that they can provide a fast and safe path for their employees to leverage AI.
And for organizations, their teams, and again, people listening around the world to this conversation today, maybe they're just beginning to get serious about Gen AI adoption. What is the biggest takeaway that you think they should be acting on after reading this report? You named a few there a moment ago. Are there any others?
Yeah, so I think employers have the responsibility to set the rules of the road for AI, and I think they should implement guardrails, and these guardrails should include visibility first. So organizations really need to understand what data is flowing into these tools and by whom and for what purpose, but also understand how much of that data is flowing out of that tool and where's that data going. So that's number one. The second thing is that they need to have policies. So companies should set clear guidelines around what type of data is allowed and appropriate for AI use, what tools are enabled and what tools are authorized for employees' use. And then they need to have controls so that they can govern that those policies. So it's governance is just not rules on paper. It's about enforcement. Employees should implement technologies that can automatically block or redirect sensitive data before it's exposed. And then the final thing is we need to enable our employees. So finally, employers should provide employees with enterprise-ready AI solutions that are safe to use. Otherwise, workers and employees are going to turn to whatever is the fastest and easiest way, and that would introduce a lot of risk. So it's really employers need to ensure that it's hard to adopt workflows that introduce risk, and that's really something that implementing these programs is something that is very important and almost an imperative for most organizations in the next few years.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your insights from the report today. And before I let you go, I'm going to ask you to leave one final gift for everyone listening. We have a Amazon wish list here where I ask my guests to recommend a book that the listeners might want to check out. What would you like to add to that list and why?
Great question. So I am a big fan of this book called Atomic Habits. It's a book by James Clear. And I've kind of read this book maybe multiple times. And, I think like a lot of excellence in life is all about discipline, and it's all about habits and creating the right habits and discarding the wrong habits. And this book gives a lot of tools. As an example, habit stacking, and concepts that one can leverage to lead a more disciplined life. And I think whether it's work, whether it's at home, discipline and following good habits can lead to massive outcomes. So that's something that I'm a big fan of, and this book is something that I would recommend everyone on your in your audience should read.
Yeah, it is a great book, and I'm completely with you on habit stacking as well. So I will add that straight to our Amazon wish list. And for many people listening, maybe they want to check out that AI adoption and risk report that we've referenced today and how it is built from billions of real world data flows, which makes it all the more important. Anyone wanting to check that out, your work at Cyberhaven, or connect with you or your team, where would you like to point everyone listening?
Yeah, so our reports are available on our website, cyberhaven.com. And again, our intention here is to truly enable and empower our customers, our partners, and organizations on how to use AI in a safe and secure way. Because I do think the AI is going to be the unfair advantage in the coming years, or leveraging AI is going to be the unfair advantage in the coming years. So I do think it's really important to set the path to safe and secure adoption of AI.
Well, I will add links to everything, including the report, make it easy for everybody to find out more information. And I would urge anyone listening to check out that report. I mean, the fact that you found that a third of all data being shared in AI tools is now considered sensitive, I think says so much about employee awareness and the policies that should be protecting company data. So I'll add links to everything there. But more than anything, just thank you for shining an important light on this and keep up the great work. But thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Neil, for having us on the show. Really appreciate it. Again, wishing the audience secure and safe adoption of AI.
So many things stood out in our discussion today, and I think it explains a complicated shift. Certainly helped me make sense of it too. And the rapid rise in AI usage has predictably created a huge productivity gains, but at the same time, it's also pushing sensitive information directly into tools that many organizations have never vetted. And his points about visibility, policies, and giving employees safe environments to work in feel like practical steps that many leaders have been looking for over the last few years. And the report he referenced is built from real data, and that's why it matters, because I think it shows where the gaps are and what needs attention before those big headlines catch up. So the question I'm left with, and I hope you are too, is how prepared is your organisation for this new wave of AI-driven work? And what will you be doing differently after listening to the insights from the report today? And if you would like to dig a little bit deeper into that report, there's going to be a link directly to it in the show notes. So wherever you listen to this podcast, click on useful links there. You'll find a link directly to the report. Check it out and let me know your thoughts. As always, send me an audio message over at techtalksnetwork.com. If you want to send a DM, just LinkedIn, X, Instagram, just at Neil C. Hughes. But that's it for today, so thank you for listening as always, and I'll speak with you all again tomorrow morning. Bye for now.